Hey, Doug and Pat here with another episode of the Wealthy Gym Owners, and today we're going to talk about how people choose to buy. So let's get to it. So, Doug, we've done trainings and episodes on how clients do buy, the buying process, the journey. We talk about that a lot through all the other episodes we do, really, like the process people go through and the follow-up. Well, if somebody is going to buy, usually they're choosing between options that are available to them. In most everybody's market these days, there are multiple options, right? Like it's not what it might have been 10 or 20 years ago, where as long as you had a service that might be a little bit different, like maybe you're the only boot camp in town, or maybe you're the only CrossFit in town. Now, if something's viable and it's got a little bit of traction, there's almost always more than one option that's at least in the ballpark. So let's talk a little bit today about how people are actually choosing between the options that are available to them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the marketplace, I mean, even now in New England that used to not be as competitive of a market. I mean, we're operating in markets where there's, multiple training gym options. And I think, we did a previous episode on pre-sale. It seems like there's always a new one opening. So you're competing against, the new shiny object. So it's not only the volume that you're competing against, but I think, naturally as humans, we're attracted to the new shiny object. So how do we stand out in a marketplace where there's also the new one coming in and potentially trying to grab some market share as well?
Yeah, and what worked in the past, it's not that it doesn't work now, it's just incomplete, right? And I think that it growing up in a small town, a lot of times there might only be a couple grocery stores people choose from. Them before you know it, there's more and more and more coming in, right? And so if more people come in, you have to be more precise in your targeting, because if not, really the ways that people are going to choose come down to convenience, like what's easiest for me to do, what's closest. Proximity is part of that convenient thing, right? Or they choose by price, like what's the cheapest. If I don't know how to delineate between multiple options, or what's kind of familiar, like do I have a friend that goes there? Am I more aware of them because I've seen them a bunch? So even if you've never been in somewhere, if you've driven by somewhere a bunch, there's a lot of familiarity. Like, so those things win out if we don't give somebody more information to factor into their buying decision. Because let's face it, the people that we serve are probably not experts in the difference between small group training and large group training and semi-private training. That's not their lane. That's our lane, right? And so we may know intimately, like, how people get great results in our gym and the community that we have and how much our coaches care about the clients and how different we are. But if you're a prospect, you haven't experienced that, right? If you're just seeing us for the first time online, you haven't experienced that. So, in maybe years past, you could have just said, we're small group training, right? And so if you don't like 30 people in a class, we cap it at 6. That's our thing. And then for quite some time now, you've narrowed to small group training in the 50 and over market. But even now, you're finding that that's not quite enough, because a lot of the industry has recognized that the 50 and over market's a really robust one that they should be pursuing. So now we've got to do a few other things. So once we've got that base category done, I've got 3 things that I kind of lean on that I'll touch on and see if you can help me unpack. The first is, who are we anchoring against? Because if we're not intentionally anchoring what we do against something, people are going to anchor to what they know. And the highest probability of what they know is cheaper, right? Because the cheaper ones have the biggest market share. So there's a better chance people know 'em. People are a whole lot more likely to know Planet Fitness than one-on-one boutique training. So you're going to get anchored against a lower price competitor, whether it's a lower price franchise training gym or a big box health club, if you don't anchor to something that's more premium. So I would encourage people that are semi-private, small group type gyms to anchor against the premium price, the one-on-one stuff. So do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, just to use some examples, like when you had kettlebells and dumbbells and free weights and you didn't have machines, you were different. And now, so people could see that, and there was a phase where that was very attractive. And now I think every training gym in the world, that's their kind of modalities, and so they, to the consumer, I think that's just really important to double down on and stress, is like, to the consumer, they all look the same. They all look the same. So I think anchoring it towards personal training, if we think of that as, using the market of the 50 plus, like whether they did personal training or not, everybody knows what a personal trainer is. Like, as much as, I know a lot of us like to use the term coach and not trainer, like everybody knows what a personal trainer is. And everybody knows that a personal trainer is not $10 or not $20. Whether it's $60 or $150, that's branding, positioning, marketplace, et cetera. But they know that it's not just a drop-in class, right? So I would strongly consider, and we've even seen it, we have clients that have kind of rebranded themselves, where it used to be blank fitness and it's now blank personal training, just to continue to use that terminology more and more, so that clients perceive it as more of that high-end premium service.
So we want to anchor against something more premium. The second thing that I think about is the concept, right? If you don't want to be lumped in with somebody else, better to kind of identify yourself as something a little bit different. And a lot of times we do that by maybe combining things. And small group training is a good example of that, right? It's you get the affordability of doing things in a smaller group environment. You get some of the community, the culture, but you get the attention and the kind of VIP experience and the personalization of one-on-one training. And so we've created this other concept. But I think that being clear about how you are different and not using language that everybody else uses. Like, if you just say, hey, we're small group and we cap it X number of people, and we provide accountability, and we have really good coaches. Everybody says that. So changing, we have expert coaches instead of really good coaches, is not enough of a delineation. So we need to make sure that our concept is perceived as different. Now, in some markets, it's still probably like we specialize in X and we have this model, right? So we specialize in 50 and over and we train in this model. But I think that making sure that the market knows how we're different, we don't just know how we're different, is paramount if we want to make sure our message lands.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is, if you look at the franchise world, they're all franchising a concept. And so within our world, it would be the examples of the two bigger ones in the recent time has been like the F45s and the Orange Theories, right? That concept of group training with intervals has been around forever, right? And most of us did some version of that. But the reason why they were able to capture so much attention is they put a method to it. They put a brand to it, they put a concept to it. And so I think figuring out what is your kind of messaging behind the concept to have it stand out. And I think there's certainly some durability there in figuring out, how does that concept stand out in the marketplace? What's different about it? and making sure you're not just blending in with everybody else. Because in theory, they could have just opened up and been a large group training. We're going to do intervals, but they put Orange Theory, put the orange concept behind it, F45, put the 45 minutes functional. Like they made a lot of their messaging around that. Good or bad, it was able to get a lot of market share.
And then finally, the other piece of this that we should, I think, really double down on, especially if like you're an independent gym owner, is what people actually want. What is their reason for coming in here? And I think that all too often we ask people to kind of connect the dots for us. But we've got clients now. We can go and find out why they came in the first place. What's important to them? What are they focused on? I know we talked about this yesterday briefly when we were sharing some of this stuff with our boardroom group. Some of this stuff, it's like in theory, it may sound right. Like, hey, the 50 and over, I want to get on the ground, play with my grandkids. But I don't know that in the 50 to 65 range, I've ever heard anybody say that was their number one thing, right? They want to still do the things they've always been able to do, or maybe they finally have the money and the time to do things they dreamed about doing, and they want to actually be able to do them. They still want to look younger and feel younger. It may be different than what it would have been 20 years prior, but we wouldn't be seeing so many things like Botox and red light therapy and whatever else sold if that wasn't important to people. They want to be able to be active and not, deal with aches and pains or even worse sorts of suffering. So, like, we need to do a deeper dive and speak to that because what we're selling is just the means to get to that. And so, the more you can articulate that, the more you can speak directly to what they want, and then talk about what they don't want through the category and the concept. Maybe they don't want large group training and they don't want their gym experience to feel like they're at a club. And they, you know, like being really clear. And I know you've talked about this a lot through various episodes, just refining the messaging. And the more narrow, the more precise you can be, the more effective it's going to be. Because now I know I talk about this constantly. Like attention is hard to come by. Like people just keep scrolling and are distracted. And even if you get them for a second, it's not even like they opened a tab on their computer so they'll come back to it. They scrolled past it and they may never see it again. So we have to be able to do something that feels valuable enough to get somebody's attention and just keep following that up with more and more stuff that feels like it is specific to them.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I would add is, and I don't know exactly where this would fit in to the three, but you mentioned it in the beginning of the episode, is the convenience term. I just think that has going to continue to become more and more important for the consumer and because generally speaking, what we offer is very inconvenient, right? It is, assuming you're offering in-person training, I need to drive to your facility for 45 to 60 minutes. I need to move my schedule around. I need to maybe swap this with that to fit it in. And then even on the inquiry process, you want me to fill out an intake form, then you want me to go meet with you in person and go through this thing. It's like there's a lot of hurdles, and some of those hurdles are justified. But like using Planet Fitness as an example, you can go online right now and buy a membership in like 3 clicks and walk through the door tonight and you're ready to rock. And so different service model, but convenience, right? I mean, that's where we saw the fast casual stuff take off. You could get some of the premium type experience by making it convenient, quick. I don't think that is going away anytime soon. And, we see it in like the GLP-1 world that took off because it was just more convenient. It was easier, less friction. So I always try to run through the filter of how can we make this easier, more convenient, whether that's just geographic proximity, I mean, we're opening up next month, we'll be opening up our fifth location, and it's literally 2 miles away from one of our other locations. But I learned once I got into that location that people don't drive over this bridge. There's a drawbridge, and people just don't drive over it. And so I'm putting another location on the other side of that drawbridge because of convenience. It's just it's a much more convenient location for people in that neighborhood. So, there's the proximity piece of it, but just I think how people choose nowadays is a big part of it is what's the easiest for me, what's the most convenient.
You don't get a lot of drawbridges in Kentucky, so that's interesting to me. So yeah, hopefully you guys understand if you're paying attention, obviously this is something you care about. The you know the target's always moving here, right? The things that used to work, it's not that they don't work at all now, they just work less well because the market gets more competitive and more sophisticated, and so we have to keep evolving. And so hopefully this is one way that you're seeing that you need to evolve, and hopefully this gave you some insights on how you can do that. So that's Doug and Pat with another episode of the Wealthy Gym Owners.